How's it hanging, y'all? My name's Blak. Welcome to the Beastiary once again. It's time for us to learn you something. Now today, we're going to be learning about a part of Native American lore. Mostly, to the north, that, in my opinion, references human nature. References our greed, the fact that we always want more and we can never get enough. Okay? Now, by talking about this, some cultures in North America would say just by talking about this means that we're bringing it upon ourselves. But I'm gonna take that chance just to learn a little bit. And today we're gonna be talking about the Wendigo, a creature of traditionally Algonquin, I believe it is, lore, and it is a creature that is always hungry. Always hungry. Now, let's learn you something. Alright, peoples. Now, the Wendigo is a part of the traditional belief system of a number of Algonquin-speaking peoples, most notably the Ojibwe, the Cree, the Naskapi, and the Innu people. Although descriptions can, they can vary a little bit here and there between the tribes. Common to all these cultures is the view that the Wendigo is a malevolent, cannibalistic, and supernatural being. They were strongly associated with the winter, the north, and coldness, as well as with famine and starvation. Basil Johnston, an Ojibwe teacher and scholar from Ontario, gives a description of a Wendigo. He states, the Wendigo was gaunt to the point of emaciation. Its desiccated skin pulled tautly over its bones, with its bones pushing out against its skin, its complexion the ash gray of death, and its eyes pushed back deep into their sockets. The Wendigo looked like a giant skeleton recently disinterred from the grave. What lips it had were tattered and bloody. Unclean and suffering from suppurations of the skin, the Wendigo gave off a strange and eerie odor of decay and decomposition, of death and corruption. The Wendigo is seen as the embodiment of gluttony, greed, and excess. Never satisfied after killing and consuming one person, they are constantly searching for new victims. In some traditions, humans who became overpowered by greed could turn into Wendigos. The myth thus served as a method of encouraging cooperation and moderation. This belief continues into the living cultures, with humans and corporations who wreak environmental destruction, who destroy communities with their greed and racism, now seen as suffering from the Wendigo sickness. Now, the Wendigo is sick because it's cut off from its roots, is what they say. It's a ghost with a heart of ice. It eats everything in sight. Its hunger knows no bounds. When there's nothing left to eat, it starves to death. When it sees something, it wants to own it. No one else can have anything. This illness feeds on a spiritual void. Canada and the United States are presently in an advanced stage of the Wendigo psychosis. The Mohawks call it the Awista disease. The Wendigos continue to attack our people and our environment. They relentlessly destroy our vast territories, forests, and wetlands. They crave what they call bitumen, a tar-like substance that is turned into oil through an energy-intensive process that causes incredible environmental damage. It will pollute the rivers, fill the air with toxins, and farmlands will be wasted. Large boreal forests will be clear-cut. They want rare cancers and other diseases to kill us and break down our society to get rid of us. Wow. That that makes you think, or makes me think at least. Now those are not my words, although I do not disagree, you know. But let's finish up here. Among the Ojibwe, the Eastern Cree, the West Main Swampy Cree, the Naskapi, and the Innu lore, Wendigos are often described as giants, many times larger than human beings. It's a characteristic that is absent from the myth in the other Algonquin cultures. Whenever a Wendigo ate another person, it would grow in proportion to the meal it had just eaten, so that it could never be full. Therefore, Wendigos were portrayed as simultaneously gluttonous and emaciated from starvation. In historical accounts of the Wendigo psychosis, it has been reported that humans became possessed by the Wendigo spirit, leading them to crave human flesh and other obscene things. The most common response when a person showed signs of the Wendigo psychosis was a curing attempt by traditional native healers. Now, in these cases where these attempts failed, reports indicate that the possessed person began either to threaten those around them or to act violently and antisocially. Generally, they were then, executed. And, cases of this type of Wendigo psychosis, although evidently real, were relatively rare. And it was even rare for them to culminate in execution. Theories about how to deal with contemporary cases vary. In 1661, I believe it's the Jesuit relations reported, what caused us greater concern was the intelligence that met us upon entering the lake, namely that the men imputed by our conductor for the purpose of summoning the nations to the North Sea and assigning them a rendezvous where they were to await our coming, had met their death the previous winter in a very strange manner. Those poor men, according to the report given to us, were seized with an ailment unknown to us, but not very unusual among the people we were seeking. They were afflicted with neither lunacy, hypochondria, nor frenzy, but have a combination of all these species of disease, which affects their imaginations and causes them a more than canine hunger. This makes them so ravenous for human flesh that they pounce upon women, children, and even upon men like veritable werewolves and devour them voraciously, without being able to appease or glut their appetite, ever seeking flesh prey, and the more greedily, the more they eat. This ailment attacked our deputies, and as death is the sole remedy among the simple people for checking such acts of murder, they were slain in order to stay the course of their madness. One of the more famous cases of Wendigo psychosis reported involved a Plains Cree trapper from Alberta, Canada, named Swift Runner. Now, during the winter of 1878, Swift Runner and his family were starving, and his eldest son died 25 miles away from emergency food supplies at a Hudson's Bay Company post. Swift Runner butchered and ate his wife and 5 remaining children. Given that he resorted to cannibalism so near to food supplies, and that he killed and consumed the remains of all those present, it was revealed that Swift Runner was not a case of pure cannibalism, as a last resort to avoid starvation, but rather of a man with Wendigo psychosis. He eventually confessed and was executed by the authorities at Fort Saskatchewan. Another well-known case involving Wendigo psychosis was that of Jack Fiddler, an Ojibwe Cree. He was a chief and a medicine man known for his powers at defeating the Wendigos. Now, in some cases, this entailed euthanizing people with Wendigo psychosis. And as a result, in 1907, Fiddler and his brother, Joseph, were arrested by the Canadian authorities for murder. Jack committed suicide, but Joseph was tried and sentenced to life in prison. He ultimately was granted a pardon, but died 3 days later in jail before receiving the news of this pardon. Fascination with Wendigo psychosis, excuse me, among the Western ethnographers and psychologists and anthropologists led to a hotly debated controversy in the 1980s over the historic, over how real or how trustworthy these claims were of this phenomenon. Some researchers argued that essentially Wendigo psychosis was a fabrication, the result of naive anthropologists taking stories related to them at face value without observation. Others have pointed to a number of credible eyewitness accounts, both by Algonquins and many others, and as evidence that Wendigo psychosis was a factual historical phenomenon. The frequency of Wendigo psychosis cases decreased sharply in the 20th century as Boreal Algonquin people came into greater and greater contact with Western ideologies and more sedentary, less rural lifestyles. Now, I don't think, personally, I don't think that the Wendigo psychosis has gone away. I think it's become more hidden, and less talked about. And I think that, because of that fact, it can do what it does easily, and if you think back to 2012, like with the MacArthur Causeway cannibal Rudy Eugene, or the Jacno case in I believe it was either Mississippi or Louisiana, and all these other flesh-eating, what they called at the time, zombie stories. What if that was in fact a case, or many cases, of Wendigo psychosis that have just not been said as such, like they've not been titled Wendigo psychosis? And what if that's what it is? What if many of these cases are being hidden from us, just to keep us from mass hysteria? And if it is, like I said before, I can understand, but people do have a right to know. And that's just a feeling that I get. But my feelings on the matter are irrelevant. I just make the videos and do the research. That's my job. My job is not to come up with crazy conspiracy theories, which probably are true, but who knows. I digress, however. I hope you learned something. And I'm sorry my voice has been trying to go in and out today, so we're going to end it here. And once again, I'm going to say, as always, knowledge is our greatest weapon. Arm yourselves. We really need to know things about our world that, we shouldn't take at face value what people tell us, that, there's nothing out there. The supernatural and paranormal do not exist, because anybody who says that, I believe personally, is a part of the problem. I'm Blak. Thank you for joining the Beastiary, and take it easy, my friends.